All right, yikes, lucid dreaming. How do I do this quickly? I actually don't think I want to do it quickly, so I'm going to take whatever time it takes to talk about lucid dreaming, and if this becomes its own separate unit in my lectures, then so be it. Because this is way too important to rush through. All right, so lucid dreaming. Well, lucid dreaming, for those who haven't heard of it, is where you realize you're dreaming while you're dreaming. Most people have had one or more occurrences of this in their life, and maybe they have it more often than that. I've been having these sort of occurrences ever since I was a teenager. I would not have them very often. I didn't really make sense of them, but I do remember one time I fell off a cliff or something. I remember falling, and during the fall, I remember thinking, well, I can't get hurt because I'm dreaming. And yeah, in fact, that was true. I didn't get hurt, and I was dreaming. One thing about lucid dreaming, and we're going to get into this in some detail as to what it is and how to do it, but just one thing in general about lucid dreaming is you can become lucid in a dream, and if you don't do certain things to stabilize yourself in that lucid state, that state of being aware that you're dreaming, what you very quickly find is your lucidity goes away and you end up sort of being reabsorbed into your dream. And that still happens to me now, that I go, ooh, yeah, look at this, I'm dreaming, this is awesome. And I'll be doing something and I kind of get into whatever it is I'm doing. And although in my dream mind I realize I'm dreaming, after a minute or so of doing whatever the activity is I'm involved with, I'm driving a car or something, is that I get reabsorbed into the process of driving the car, and very quickly, within a few seconds, you can sort of forget that you're dreaming again, and you're back in the dream, and the dream continues. And I've had lots of dreams where that happens multiple times, where I recognize that I'm dreaming, I realize it, but then I forget, and then a few minutes in the dream, I don't know how long that took, but later in the dream, I'll remember again, and I'll go, wait a second, I already thought I was awake. Now I know that now I know I'm sleeping again, and you can go in and out. Essentially, you can go in and out of this process. So it's a whole process of stabilizing yourself in the lucid dream that's important. Okay, so why is a lucid dream important? Well, there's one terribly informative thing that you can do in a lucid dream, and that is you can see firsthand the creative power of your mind. It's one thing to sit there at your computer or sit there in a lawn chair and just sort of ponder the meaning of life while you're awake and think about the fact that you had a dream and think about how incredible it is that you could have a dream and you could see and you can talk and you can do all these things in your dream. That's one thing to sit there and think about that. But it's a whole other thing to actually be in the dream and say to someone in your dream, listen, just want to interrupt here for a second. I know we're out here on the water fishing, but I want you to know something. We're actually dreaming right now. And I've done this many times, is I'm explaining to another person in the dream, listen, this is a dream. This is my dream. I know I'm lying in bed. I know the town I live in. I know the current date. I know my cat is sitting on the windowsill right now watching me as I dream. Okay, so just so you know that, now we can go back to our fishing. But I want you to know we are dreaming right now, right? The unbelievable thing, however, is I've had dreams like that, but maybe a little different dream where I'm not sitting there fishing with someone. I'm standing looking at a scene. And it is amazing to look at the scene, to reach down and grab, there's one scene, I'm standing on a beach, to reach down and grab a handful of sand and feel the heat of the sand, look at the grains of sand, and to be able to say while you're holding this handful of sand, this is incredible. I know this is not real. I know this is a dream, but look at the sand, look at the water. It's extraordinary. you can actually, while you're that lucid, while you're that aware that it's a dream, you can make things happen. You could say, I would love to see my father who died last year. And you can't always make it happen, but very often you can. Extraordinary. And it really shows you, imagine what's going on. You're having these thoughts about looking at the sand that you know is not real while knowing that you're sleeping. But knowing that your mental faculties are so powerful that it can create everything in this dream simultaneously. I'm creating this dream while I'm also lying in bed, breathing. I'm sitting there thinking about the fact that I'm dreaming. So I'm actually existing on multiple levels of consciousness, having multiple thoughts, all simultaneously, all while my imagination is somehow creating the scene that I'm in. I don't know. To me, it's flabbergasting. For someone that's never had this happen to them, maybe you may not be getting why this is so amazing, but I would ask you to try to imagine this system. I mean, this scenario and what it would be like. So, the point is, you can lucid dream too if you want to. It's really not that hard to do. And the first step in lucid dreaming is to, guess what? Keep a dream journal. And so keep the dream journal, and that gets you more and more attuned to the state of sleep. And I just think there's something that goes on at an unconscious level, where your unconscious now realizes that dreams are important to you, and it realizes that it somehow, I don't know how this works, is the subconscious helps you remember the dreams and sort of be sensitive to dreaming. All right, so that's step number one. Keep a dream journal. And over a period of time, you're going to get very good at remembering these dreams. The next step in the process is recognizing dream signs. Everybody's different. Everybody has certain keys, certain repetitive themes that come up in their dream that are indicative of the fact that they're dreaming. I don't know. If you saw an elephant fly by, for example, you ought to be able to recognize that you're in a dream. The problem is you need to be aware enough in your dream to be sensitized to be looking for those kinds of signs. And so if you happen to have animals flying around in your dreams a lot, while you're awake, you need to concentrate on the fact that when I see flying animals, I know I'm dreaming. And you need to actually say that in your conscious while you're awake, so that while you're asleep, you can recognize that as being a sign that you're in a dream. Because once you recognize when you're in a dream, once you recognize something that indicates you're in a dream, you will instantly become aware in your dream. You'll become lucid in your dream. And once you become lucid, then you can take some action to stabilize yourself in that mental state. We'll get to that in a minute. So, keep a dream journal. Search that dream journal to find repetitive themes that you can use to indicate that you're dreaming. That's one way to do it. In my particular case, and this is just me, who knows, I'm odd this way. One thing that very, very often happens to me in my dreams is I have no shoes. And very often in my dreams, I'm looking for my shoes. And I'm sure that says something Freudian about me. I haven't never looked it up, and I guess I should. But for me, not having my shoes is an important indicator that I'm dreaming. And I've tried to impress that on my mind, but I have yet to wake up in the middle of a dream, become lucid in the middle of the dream, because I can't find my shoes. Just not last night, but the night before, the last dream I had in my nightly set of dream cycles was I was searching for my shoes. And geez, I wish I could have remembered that if I'm searching for my shoes, that meant I'm asleep and I should become lucid, because then I can do cool lucid dream stuff. And we'll talk about what kinds of cool lucid dream stuff you can do in just a minute. So that's one way, is to search through your dream journal, find some dream signs, and try to impress upon yourself, this is a dream sign, this means I'm dreaming. And that works for a lot of people. Another thing that seems to work, actually even better than dream science, is what's called a reality check. There are certain things that you can do in a dream that if you were doing it while you're awake, the results are different. One reality check is to look at your hand. And this is going to sound strange, but this is the way it works, is that if you look at your hand right now, you're going to see 5 fingers. You're going to recognize that's a hand. You're going to count the fingers, and it's going to look like a normal hand. If in your dream you look at your hand, you're going to find that your hand looks very different. And I have no idea why this is the case. Your fingers, you may not have 5 fingers. You may only have 3 or 4, 6, 10, whatever. Your fingers very often will be odd shapes. They'll be very wide, sort of fat, almost like sausages, right? And your hand itself will almost look like a Mickey Mouse hand very often, very swollen, and the big wide fingers, and sometimes a different number than 5. I know this is strange, but it's true. So there are several other reality checks that you can do. You can jump up in the air and see if you can stay there. Obviously, if you were to jump up in the air right now in the room that you're standing in while you're awake, you're going to go up and you're just going to come back down and land. You will find that in your dream, if you jump up in the air, you'll hover there for a bit. Sometimes you'll sort of float around, and then you may come back down. So there are things that you can do in the real world that behave differently than if you do them in the dream world. Now, this is going to sound kind of odd, but what I'm suggesting is, a lot of people do this, is that you do this, you question whether you're dreaming while you're awake. Right now, actually, I'm going to show you my computer monitor here just for a second. Let me just take this, turn it around. Take a look at my computer monitor. Take a look at this. Take a look at this. Okay? Why would I put little signs on my monitor to say, am I dreaming, and awareness now? Well, am I dreaming is actually a reality check. That's the classic reality check. So the way reality checks work is you need to do them while you're awake. You need to get into the habit of doing them while you're awake, so that when you're asleep, they are such a natural part of what you do that while you're asleep and dreaming, you perform those reality checks there as well. And let me explain what I mean by that. Remember what I said earlier? It's like when the elephant flew by in your dream, how come you didn't say, wow, that's really weird. There's a flying elephant. I must be dreaming. Why didn't that happen? Well, it's because your level of discernment was very, very low. Although you were alert enough to have conversations and to go fishing and to do different things with people in your dream, your level of discernment was turned down such that weird things could happen and you wouldn't question them. So if you're not going to question an elephant flying by, how are you going to remember in your dream to look at your hand? How are you going to remember to ask the question to yourself mentally, am I dreaming? And the answer is, you're not. You're not going to remember to do those things. So how does this all work? Well, the way it works is if you do it all the time while you're awake, every hour, for example, if you say, am I dreaming? You say that to yourself, and you check to see if you're dreaming. And you do that every day, day in, day out, for a week, for 2 weeks, for 3 weeks, you will find that you will start doing that in your dream because it's really become an embedded part of you. It becomes an automatic thing like breathing, all right? So if you were to say, for example, when you say, whether you're awake or you're dreaming, you say, am I dreaming? Well, if you're awake and you say, am I dreaming? Well, how can you tell? How can I tell right now that I'm not dreaming? First of all, I look at my hand and I see if I got 5 fingers. Okay, that's a normal looking hand. I jump up in the air, and if I come back down, okay. The other thing you do is pinch yourself. Literally, the old saying, pinch yourself to see if you're dreaming. Literally, that's true. Because if you're dreaming and you pinch yourself, you don't really feel it, because you don't really feel pain in dreams for the most part. But you certainly feel it here. So how I do a reality check is I say, am I dreaming? Okay, nope. Pinch, nope. Jump, nope. Well, if I want to be a little less overt, let me give you another reality check, and that is try to remember what you've been doing for the last hour or the last 2 or 3 hours. okay, I had breakfast and then I took a shower and then I did this and then I did that. No, I must not be dreaming. Because you will find that when you're dreaming, just like in the movie Inception, you'll find that when you're dreaming, if you say, am I dreaming in my dream, and you think back and you go, how did I get here? You won't be able to remember, because dreams, you just appear within certain scenes. So that's another reality check. So if you do this on a regular basis, you keep a dream journal, you think about whether you're dreaming often during the day, every single day, and you do reality checks during the day, every single day. And the last thing is when you go to bed, you go to sleep, and this is the most important thing, is you have an intention to wake up in your dreams. And you basically say, as you're lying there with your eyes closed, I will wake up in my dream. I will wake up in my dream. I will become awake in my dream. I will become alert in my dream. If you do that, and you do that on a regular basis, you will lucid dream. Now, I'll just say that because of the way the dreaming cycle works, as we were talking about earlier, you can all you want at 10 o'clock at night or whatever time you go to bed, you can say, I will wake up in my dream, I will wake up in my dream, I will wake up in my dream. The problem is that first cycle, you're probably not going to wake up in your dream because you're not going to be in REM for very long, and so you'll simply pass through it. You're not really going to become lucid until some of the later cycles. So what a lot of people do is they set an alarm. And they'll set an alarm for an hour and a half before they normally get up, maybe 2 hours before they normally get up. And that will bring them, that will wake them up. And they go, okay, well now I'm awake. I'm gonna fall back asleep this time with the intention of having a lucid dream. So very often that's what people do, is they'll set the alarm, wake up at that, whatever it is, 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning. They will have the intention of having a lucid dream, and they will say that over and over in their mind before they go to sleep. And that will give you a very high probability of having a lucid dream over time. It's probably not going to happen the first night or the second night, but very quickly it will happen. All right? So that's the whole sort of soup to nuts. That's how to have a lucid dream. All right? There are lots and lots of dream books on the subject. A couple are that I would recommend highly. I'm going to put them in the resources guide at the end of the handout material. I would buy one of those books if you really care. Buy one of those books, give it a look, see what you think. But even if you don't buy one of those books, if you just do what I just told you to do, you will have lucid dreams. All right? Now, who cares about having a lucid dream, right? Well, okay. So that brings up the topic of, what can I do in a lucid dream? Well, what can't you do? Literally, you can do anything. Some of it's just fun time at the carnival. You can do anything. If you love to ski, you can ski. If you want to ski the steepest mountain in the world, the tallest mountain in the world, you can do that. You can have all kinds of escapades or sexcapades or whatever it is you want to do. You can do. One of the more difficult problems is, and I'll get into more of what you can do in lucid dreaming, but one of the problems with lucid dreaming, especially early on, your first few lucid dreams, you're going to get really excited when you discover that you're awake in your dream. Really excited. To the point where you're going to wake yourself up. And I'll tell you what, that is such a painful experience. Not physically, just emotionally. It's such a disappointment to want to lucid dream as badly as you want to, and to do the work necessary to lucid dream, and then to become lucid in your dream and go, yes, I'm lucid, and you run around and high five the other characters in your dream. But what happens is strong emotion will shake you out of the dream, and you'll become you'll wake up immediately, which is just a difficult thing to accept. And so what you need to do is, once you become lucid, you need to, first of all, rule number one is you need to stay calm. Because if you start freaking out, you start running around screaming and yelling and high-fiving everybody, you'll wake up, and that'll be the end of that lucid dream, which is painful. If you're really good, which you're not going to be on your first couple lucid dreams, but if you were, when you wake up out of a lucid dream, you don't become awake, you become hypnopompic. And In the hypnopompic state, if you remember, you do have a certain amount of awareness. You're half awake, half asleep. You can go, okay, I got to settle down. Settle down. And you just sort of replay the dream that you were just in. Just imagine that dream. Just keep imagining that dream and have the intention to want to return to that dream. And very often you will. Okay, so they refer to that as dream re-entry. When you do get to that hypnopompic state, if you stay calm and stay still, don't move your body, you can actually return into that dream. And this time, you can stabilize yourself in lucidity. All right? So, step 1, stay calm. Step 2 is you have to stabilize yourself in the lucid dream. And there are certain physical things that you can do. Well, I say physical. It's physical in your dream, but it's not physical in the real world, that people have used for years to stabilize themselves. And I know these things sound like completely arbitrary things, but they work, right? One is rubbing your hands together. Don't ask me why. First of all, you're going to look at your hands and you're going to see their big balloon fingers and everything else, and you're going to go, okay, I'm lucid. But what you can do is you can stabilize yourself by rubbing your hands together, by grounding yourself, literally, like if there's dirt. If you take something and just look at it very carefully and look at it, you're stabilizing yourself in that environment. If you're just kind of looking around, hairy-fairy, going here and going there, it doesn't work very well. You need to be very focused on something to keep yourself in that state. Because remember, what you're focusing on is what you, well, no, it's really hard to explain. Well, I guess we're going to have to do that in another lecture. I need to cover some other ground. But so, point is, you want to stabilize yourself in that environment. One is to remind yourself that you're lucid, and keep reminding yourself that you're lucid in a dream. And if you go back to the little signs I've got on my monitor here, one says awareness now. And don't ask me why this works, but it does. Is in your dream, you can stabilize yourself by doing something like rubbing your hands together, picking up something and looking at it. The other thing is you can increase your awareness within your dream tremendously by simply saying awareness now. What you're doing when you're saying awareness now is you're talking to your subconscious self. And you're basically saying, I want to be more aware right now. And your subconscious is a very, very powerful thing, but it'll also listen to what you want. And if you tell your subconscious you want to become more aware, it will help you become more aware. And see, if you say awareness now, and you say it with, some real meaning, some real force, what happens is, all of a sudden, everything in your lucid dream becomes much clearer, much more, the colors become much more intense, everything comes into sharper focus. And your level of awareness is just, you're more in the moment, you're more aware at that moment. So, stabilizing yourself, and then saying awareness now, and reminding yourself that you're lucid dreaming, that'll allow you to stay in that lucid dream for a period of time. But I'll tell you right now, staying in a lucid dream for more than a couple of minutes is difficult. It takes a lot of training. I am not there yet. I have a lot more work to do. Every once in a while, I will have a lucid dream that'll last 10 minutes or 15 minutes. It seems like that anyways. But most of my lucid dreams are pretty short. I go through this process, I stabilize myself, I generate more awareness, but after a couple minutes, you can just feel yourself kind of becoming fuzzier and fuzzier, and you either drop into another dream and are in a regular old dream state, not lucid, or you find yourself, awake. That's just the way it works. But the things you experience while you're lucid are worth all the work. Okay, back to some of the other things you can do while you're lucid. Here's the thing. As I said earlier, first of all the dream characters, that's the dream researcher terminology for the other people in your dream are referred to as dream characters. All of those dream characters, well, most of those dream characters are a creation of you. Not only a creation of you, but are actually a part of you. They represent some aspect of you. And one of the cool things you can do in lucid dreams, when you're done all your playing around and skiing the tallest mountain and hanging with the most beautiful girls or men in the world and doing whatever whatever crazy stuff you want to do. Once you're done with that silliness and you want to get more serious about things, you can actually investigate aspects of yourself by talking to aspects of yourself in that way. Talking to a dream character. You say to a dream character, what do you represent in me? And the dream character will actually tell you. You can actually have a dialogue with that dream character and end up learning more about yourself. You can ask to meet with people that you want to meet with. You can ask to see your grandmother again, who has been dead and gone for years, but you would like to talk to. And you'll be able to. Now, is that person that you're talking to actually your grandmother? Well, maybe we'll get to that at some point. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. There are stories people have told where they have had, conversations with what they think could be a relative, a loved one that had died. And sometimes they get information from that person they couldn't have known otherwise, which gets back to maybe a couple of units ago. That's one of the key ways to see whether what you're experiencing is real, is whether you've got information that you wouldn't have known otherwise. So yeah, that does happen. On the other hand, maybe you're talking to a creation of your own that represents your grandmother. Maybe it represents your idea of your grandmother. But anyways, you could have those sorts of experiences. There are people who have decided they want to talk to God, and they've had conversations that may or may not be with God, but certainly it'd be an interesting conversation, you must admit. Even if you're talking with your imagination of God, it could be a pretty interesting conversation. So you could accomplish a lot of things. As a matter of fact, once you get pretty good at lucid dreaming, you really need to sit down and come up with a list of things that you'd like to do, so that when you have the intention of having a lucid dream, maybe your intention is, I will become lucid in my dream and I will talk to my grandmother, right? Or whatever the thing is that you want to do. So at some point, the point it's not just I want to be lucid, it's I want to be lucid and I want to accomplish such and such. Right? One of the other things you can do out of a lucid dream, once you enter it, is that you can experiment with out-of-body experiences. You can actually do astral travel. And that's a topic for another unit. And I know that it sounds awfully strange, but honestly, a lot of the things we're going to talk about are strange. I'm hoping to provide you with enough examples and enough information so that you can understand that this isn't just silly talk. These are real things. So, lucid dreaming can be a super, super powerful thing. And it can be a doorway to incredible stuff. I made a couple of notes here about some of the things that you discover in lucid dreaming. And so I just want to go down through the list here. First, it can give you first-hand proof that we are fully formed thinking individuals even when we're dissociated with our body. Even when we're not awake and living our real life, we are fully formed, functional, thinking, creative individuals, even while we're asleep. And you can see that lucid dreaming a little bit better than just regular dreaming, because the lucid dreaming process, you are actually sitting there going, holy shit, I'm actually talking with so-and-so. I'm talking with Abraham Lincoln here, even though I'm asleep, right? So first of all, you can be much more aware of what's going on in your dream. But second of all, lucid dreams, very, very memorable. You will not forget what happened in a lucid dream, especially if you wake up and write it down when you're done. But it is just as memorable as anything that happens in your regular waking life. All right? So it really serves as proof that you are not completely defined by a physical body. It gives you a sense of the complexity of you as a human or as an entity. You're not just a bunch of cells with a brain and 2 arms and 2 legs. There is much, much more going on to being human. than you thought. Now this is going to start getting a little weirder. You can see that the world, when you have a lucid dream and you're standing there on that beach and you're looking out there seeing that sailboat and you're looking at the waves and you're feeling the sun on your face and the warmth of the sand in your feet, you can understand that perhaps that physical matter isn't required to have a complete experience. And perhaps there isn't even any physical matter that even exists. And perhaps your entire existence is non-physical. Perhaps. I'm going to get into that more as we go through some of these units. But you can see that having an actual experience of catching this big fish or skiing down that hill or talking with Abraham Lincoln does not require photons. It doesn't require atoms. It doesn't require anything physical in any way. You can have a completely realistic experience. Feels just like regular life. Sometimes it feels more real than regular life, without any material at all being involved. You can understand not just who you are, because a lot of people go through their life trying to figure out who they are. Who am I? What's the meaning of life? Etc. Etc. One thing that happens, with lucid dreaming and a lot of these other kinds of experiences that we're going to be talking about, is you can get a sense of what you are. You probably today are thinking you are, 2 arms, 2 legs, a whole bunch of cells connected together with a brain that does certain things, and eventually you'll die and you'll be put in the ground and you'll be eaten by worms. And then someone else will be born and they'll have, whatever, on and on and on you go. This might be the first inkling, a lucid dream might be the first inkling into your true nature. Because, a little spoiler alert here, is that you are not a physical being. You are an eternal, all-powerful, creative, non-physical entity. That's what you are. Even though in your life, sitting here today, listening to this bit, you feel like a material, physical creature having a life, who will eventually die and be put in the ground. Maybe you believe you go to heaven. Maybe you believe everything just goes black. What I'm telling you is, lucid dreaming will be your first inkling of the fact that you are none of those things. That you are having a physical experience, but you are not a physical being. You were not born, and you cannot die, is the fact of the matter. And we've got a lot more material to cover for me to be able to give you some proof points for you to validate that fact. But I'm saying lucid dreaming will be the first step in that realization. Okay? That's it. That's what lucid dreaming is all about. Not a big deal, right? Takeaway, I try to have a takeaway on every one of these things. The takeaway from this whole sort of dreaming and lucid dreaming thing is that consciousness is super important and fundamental, and it possibly may be the truth of our non-physical being. It may be the core of what we are as these sort of non-physical beings that we are. Consciousness may be the only true aspect of your nature that you can realize right now, sitting in that chair. Right? Everything else that you're experiencing is not your true nature, but your consciousness is your true nature. And when this life is over and you move on to the next adventure, and we're going to be talking about what that next adventure is in a later unit, that consciousness that you have is the exact same consciousness you will have then. All the memories that you've got from all the experiences you've had in your life will still be part of that consciousness. Those memories will not be buried in that brain that's left in your leftover body that was thrown in a hole or that was burned or cremated. Just like the guy whose brother stole the baseball and then died, and then the medium got that information about the baseball. The point is, the memory of that baseball was not in Tom's brain. The memory of that baseball was in a non-physical aspect of Tom, which is part of consciousness. All of us are a part of consciousness. All of our memories and all of our experiences are a part of consciousness. And that's a non-physical thing, and it's something that cannot be destroyed. And that's why when Tom died and was buried, that's where that information existed. It existed in consciousness. That's where the medium got it. All right? I jumped ahead a few chapters to give you that basic piece of information. I hope that doesn't scare everybody away because it's too strange. But that's what we're working towards. And we're working towards it one step at a time. Lucid dreaming is an important one of those steps. All right? So, that's all about lucid dreaming. The next unit that we're going to get into is going to talk about, the title of the unit is The Greatest Experiment. And it really talks about the greatest experiment in all of science. It's the double slit experiment. It tells us a lot about how the world works and how consciousness works and how reality works. It's not going to be a woo-woo discussion about out-of-body travel or lucid dreams or any kind of, or channels or mediums or anything like that. This is going to be a very down-to-earth discussion about an actual experiment that's been run thousands and thousands of times over the last 100 years, and always has the same incredible result, which we'll get to next.